Hello, internet viewing world. Another video. This one's probably going to be a bit heavier than the last. Um, so first question: when I have depressive episodes, how long do they tend to last? Um, when I have serious depressive episodes, when I say serious depressive episodes, that means that when in regards to me, it means that I feel a lot less hungry. Um, it takes a lot more energy to interact with people as I normally do, to the point that most of the time I avoid interaction when I can. And my mind is a mixture of thinking so much stuff at once that it's overwhelming, and thinking so little that it's kind of like a fuzz. So there are times where I just not thinking anything. I'm just feeling listless. So when I feel like that, sometimes it only lasts maybe half of a day. Sometimes maybe it lasts a full day. Um, I had a really long stretch that lasted about a week. Um, I think the week long one was probably the worst one in recent memory. And by recent memory, I mean that happened a couple months ago. Um, More often than not, when I get depressive moods where I'll just feel listless. I just won't feel. It's kind of important to distinguish between feeling sad and then feeling depressed. Like when you're sad, it's like you just feel terrible. Like you wanna cry. You want to feel better. You want to feel yeah, you want to feel better. But with me, and maybe with other depressive people, I'm not going to speak for them because, again, this is my experience, but maybe this is universal. When I'm feeling depressed, I don't feel much of anything. It's not happy, it's not sad, it's just empty. Hell, if anything, I want to feel sad when I'm in a depressive episode. I want to cry. I want to be able to feel something. There was a time in recent memory, and I think it was actually during that week long stretch that I punched a hole in the wall. I couldn't tell you why I punched the hole in the wall. I couldn't tell you which of the millions of thoughts that I was thinking at myself caused me to punch a hole in the wall, but I punched a hole in the wall. And seeing as how I'm still living with my mom, that was kind of shocking, and it was kind of a scary thought because, as I mentioned before, one of the things that scares me the most and one of the things I try to avoid as much as I can is letting anybody else in on my feelings when I get like this, because I don't want anybody else to suffer even a little as I do. And me punching a hole in somebody else's wall is letting them in on it. So I took a picture of it, sent it to my mom, said, I am sorry. Tell me what I need to do to fix it. Tell me what I need to buy to fix it. And of course, mom didn't care at all about the hole in her wall. She cared about me. She said, is your hand alright? Are you alright? What's going on? Um, Go figure, right? Punch a hole in this woman's wall and she cares about my hand. It doesn't make sense to me at all. Um, but yes, that's how long my depressive episodes tend to last. They tend to last for something. Usually, it's maybe an hour, like some hours at a time. When it's really severe, it can last some weeks, maybe. Well, I'm not gonna say 2 weeks because that seems. I don't think I've ever had that. The most I've had was the week. But even if I'm not having a depressive episode, there are still times during a day where some niggling thought, some insidious thought will be enough to like paralyze me and get me to immediately being in a bit more of a down mood. So speaking of those niggling thoughts, what are my triggers? When I say triggers, I mean what are those situations or actions or thoughts that are more likely to cause you to enter a depressive episode. Although sometimes a lot of times, especially with me, you can just enter a depressive episode for no reason. Like, you cannot pinpoint anything that said, hey, this is why I'm feeling sad. It just happens. You'll just lose all of your energy and lose a lot of your motivation to do things. So, what are some triggers that I've identified when it comes to me? One trigger that I can quantify easily that will make me feel isolated, that will make me feel separated, that will make me feel not worthy, is when I hear or see or think about groups of friends doing anything. And this is why I think Facebook is so insidious. Facebook is a tool, and tools can be good or bad depending on how they're used. But there are times where I see people posting pictures on Facebook of they and their friends doing some activity. It doesn't even matter how extraordinary or how mundane the activity is, but just seeing that is enough to make me feel a little bit lonely and make me feel a little bit sad. Although I'm quick to correct myself, saying chances are it's not even an activity I enjoy. Like, if I see a picture of somebody on my friends list on Facebook at a club when I don't have much of an interest in going clubbing, it's not the clubbing per se that makes me feel left out or makes me feel, I'll admit it, envious, because I don't envy them going to the club because I don't really care about going to the club. What gets to me is the sense of companionship, the sense of friendship, the bonds that until very recently and even now, I don't think I have those kind of special bonds with anybody. Not from any lack of effort on other people's part, but mainly from a lack of effort on my part. And not really knowing how to form and cultivate and strengthen those bonds. So when I hear about people doing things with their friends, and even better, anytime I hear the phrase best friend, that kind of gets to me. Sometimes it gets to me a little bit, sometimes it gets to me a lot, but best friends definitely make me feel a bit of envy, because I think that I am yearning for that one or even those few people that I can call best friends. The kind of people that I could spend any situation with, that I could talk to about anything, no matter how trivial, no matter how banal. But yeah, so things like that definitely get me a bit down. And that's not to say that I begrudge them that. Believe me, even despite through all the envy and through all the loneliness that seeing those pictures or hearing about those events might make me feel, I am genuinely happy for them. And that's my thing. I'm always happy for my friends when they're having fun. I'm happy for my friends when they're happy. I am, but I just can't help feeling a bit left out. But having said that, that's still mainly on me, because I'll admit that I give off an impression a lot of the time about not wanting to do stuff or not really knowing much. So, of course, I wouldn't really I probably wouldn't be the first person to ask about going somewhere, seeing as how most of the time I don't go places. So yeah, a lot of the stuff I bring on myself, and I can see that, and that helps temper the feelings a bit, I'll say. But those are my main triggers. Another trigger is thinking about mistakes I've made in the past. And one thing about me, I have a pretty good memory. My memory is the main reason I excelled so well in school. I can remember those history facts and those science facts that clearly serve a lot of use today. And I can remember them just long enough to pass the test. And then if it stays on my head, awesome. If it doesn't, oh well, I don't need it anymore. And that was enough to pass classes and get those grades to get that money from my mom. So I have a pretty good memory. One of the bad things about having good memory is that you remember things you'd rather forget. You remember times you felt embarrassed. You remember times you felt lonely. You remember bad things. And the thing with my good memory is that it's selective. I can remember a lot more embarrassing things. I can remember a lot more things I wish I'd forget, and I can remember them in greater detail than I could any good memory. And the really sucky part is that I don't really control when a memory from my past will pop up in my active memory. There's a word for it, but in my active memory, I don't really control when that happens. Just a random word it happens at random, and that's enough to immediately darken my mood. I've gotten a little bit better about recovering from it, but that isn't thinking about times I've made a mistake just get to me. And it's weird because I've never seen myself as a perfectionist. Maybe with some things like with school projects or school assignments or some things on the job, I want it to be perfect, or I want it to be at least right, but I've never seen myself as a hard, strict perfectionist. So I don't know why mistakes, small mistakes, minor mistakes, mistakes that other people wouldn't even bat an eye about, I don't know why they get to me the effect that they do. Well, actually, I do know why they get to me the way that they do. It's because somewhere in my mind, I got the idea that if I'm not perfect, if I don't excel, then I'm worthless. Fat lot of good it does that I mentioned before, that I excelled at school and still feel this way. And that's what's so insidious about depression and anxiety and things like that, is that you'll tell yourself things and give yourself all these insane standards to meet, and for one, a lot of them are arbitrary, and for two, a lot of them are impossible. It's impossible to be perfect, and yet you'll hate yourself for not being perfect, or at least I did, and kind of do. But yeah, so those are some of my triggers. Now, the big question: have I ever contemplated suicide? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. The first time the thought even entered my head was even as young as maybe 13 or 14, where I did an internet search about, I did a Google search about what, I think I even remember what I typed. I think I typed ways to kill myself painlessly. Now, I'm not sure if at that point in time I was ready to act on it. And I don't recall what exactly I read, if I read any methods at all. But me being the dumb 14-year-old that I am, I didn't really know about erasing your search history. So my brother, being on the computer, saw the search history and use that as leverage against me for a short time, saying, "You're lucky I don't tell mom what I saw in the search history." Maybe he should have said something. But that was the first time I ever thought about it. A more recent time that I remember thinking about it was half a year ago. And just that short amount of time ago, half a year ago, that I seriously gave thought to just ending it. And that time, I had actually written a letter. And writing that letter was cathartic. It did give me some feeling. I teared up. I teared up writing certain parts of it, which I guess was one of my aims in writing it. And much like 14, when I was 14, I couldn't say with 100% certainty if I was ready to act on it. But if I wasn't ready to act on it, why did I write the letter, right? But I did write the letter. And I hinted to some of the people at my job about the letter's existence, which led to me almost getting hospitalized. It meant a lot to me that there were people willing to hospitalize me over that, but I was not ready to go to the hospital for something like that. I reassured them constantly that I wasn't going to do anything to myself, and they were very hard pressed to believe me. They got my mom involved, which is one of my worst fears. I did not want her to be a part of this at all. But she got involved, and now she's aware of some of the stuff that goes on in my head, which is a good thing. It is a good thing, but it just feels like I'm burdening her even more, and that's not a thought that'll go away easily. But yeah, the basic answer, yes, I have contemplated suicide. The lesser question of have I ever cut myself or have I done anything else self-abuse? No, not consciously, no. I've never taken a knife or a razor to myself. But I want to issue reassurances to anybody out there that may be contemplating suicide. And I'm not going to be as arrogant as to say it gets better. I'm not going to be the person that says that, because when you're in that space that says ending myself is the easy, is the simplest, maybe not the simplest solution, but is the only solution available, you really won't believe that it gets better. And when people tell you it's the coward's way out, it just makes you feel worse. It's like they're shaming you for feeling that's what it is. They're shaming you for feeling the way you do, which, if anything, is only going to exacerbate the feeling and maybe push you to do it maybe push you harder to do it. So I'm not going to say you're taking the easy way out, and I'm not going to say it gets better. But maybe just give it another day. Give it one more day to have somebody maybe ask you a random question or smile at you, and hopefully that may be enough to convince you to keep trying for another day. Because I will say there have been times that just a random smile has helped me, or a random, inane, stupid question has taken my thoughts off of it not completely, but thoroughly enough that I didn't think anything like that for the rest of the day. So I won't tell you not to do it, but I will ask you to maybe put it off for another day. If it's that serious, then what makes tomorrow any worse than today? So, end of another video. Later.